Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Property Venture Podcast, the show where we are dedicated and committed to offering educative information to our listeners all over the world, wherever they are. My name is Giancarlo Carangelo. I am your host and joined again today with Adriano Buonno of Group Orvis, filling in for our dear friend Anthony Lodgia, who's going to be back in studio sometime soon. So, Adriano, thanks for sitting in with us.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure. You know that. If you call me, I show up. I'm dependable.
Definitely.
So happy to be here again.
And that's what we appreciate. You know, we could always count on you. And so, you know, there's some changes coming.
Yeah.
You know,
Massive changes.
Massive changes in the Canadian real estate market, you know, and it's going to affect some first-time home buyers.
Absolutely.
You know, and, you know, in my last 10 years of, you know, real estate, I've seen, you know, changes happen multiple times, some for the good, some for the better, some loosening restrictions, some tightening them. This one actually seems like it's going to be good for first-time home buyers.
For sure.
You know, so for those of you who don't know about these changes coming in Canada on December 15th, there's going to be a few things happening that are going to be making it easier for first-time home buyers to purchase a property in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So, Adriano, why don't you let them know some of the changes that are coming?
Absolutely. So first of all, I mean, these new changes and new regulations are really an admission from the federal government that we do have a housing problem, right? So since COVID, costs have skyrocketed, interest rates have skyrocketed. So it's a lot harder to qualify for a home for a couple of reasons, right? Obviously, the prices are higher.
Yeah.
So the same property that you could have bought 10 years ago is now, you know, double or triple the price. Interest rates are higher than they were, you know, a couple of years ago as well, especially pre-pandemic, not even talking about pandemic. And you know what? Savings haven't gone up as much. Salaries haven't gone up by the same margin. We're a lot more people in Canada than we used to be. Not a lot of building going on. So all these factors are really, you know, leading us to a very tough housing market, given there are still always opportunities, right? Depending on what you're looking for. And that's why you need good people around you to help you out.
Definitely.
But again, these new regulations are really an admission of the federal government that there is a problem, and they want to make it easier for people. So easier to qualify for a mortgage, easier to purchase.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run through the changes that are, you know, coming into effect December 15th. So the first big change is that for insured mortgages. So when I say insured mortgages are mortgages where the borrowers put less than 20% of a down payment.
Example 5-10%.
Exactly. And because of that, they do have to pay from their down payment an insurance premium, which protects the lender. So when you have an insured mortgage previously, the cap for your amortization, so the total time needed to pay off the loan, was 25 years. So all of those payments, again, in your 25-year amortization, you have terms that you can decide whether you want a 3-year term, a 5-year term, etc.
Yeah.
But for the total time to pay off the loan, the mortgage, you were capped at 25 years. That's being extended to 30 years.
Which will lower monthly payment.
Exactly. So what that does is that at the beginning, it's going to lower your monthly payment.
Yeah.
Right, by a couple $100, depending on your mortgage amount. So you're really going to have that relief to not be up to your neck in terms of payments, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, it's new. So you're not only going to have a mortgage payment, but you're going to have home insurance to pay. You're going to have tax payments. You're going to have to, buy a lawnmower, whatever it may be, right? So you do have other costs involved. So what that's going to do is lower your payment first and foremost. And it's also going to help you qualify for a higher mortgage amount. So it kind of tackles two problems in one.
Yeah.
So the first, you know, solution, or the first thing it helps, that your payment monthly is going to be lower. And we can get into, you know, in a second about how, yes, you are paying a mortgage for 5 years longer, so you will have interest to pay down the line. Absolutely. If you live in the property 30 years or keep your mortgage or don't make any change to your mortgage in the meantime, yes. But at the jump, what matters most is budget, especially if you're younger. And again, you're moving into your first apartment away from your parents, or, you know, you're getting engaged, married, and you're buying a home that you're going to be building a family and raising a family in. So at the jump, your cash flow, your budget is really going to be helped out. And again, because the payments are lower, it's going to allow you to qualify for a higher mortgage amount. So then when you're looking at the market and how prices have risen, and this extra borrowing capacity that you're going to unlock with this new regulation is going to help you maybe get the house in the area you really wanted, and not, the one off the island or whatever it may be. So this is really going to be helpful for a lot of people I'm really excited for it to come into effect. I have a lot of clients that are waiting for this to come into effect to get into the market. So it's really, really exciting. And again, that's a big change that the federal government announced finally. And it's going to help out a lot of people.
Yeah, and like I definitely think it will help out a lot of people because, people have been, especially first-time home buyers, in the last 4 to 5 years have been struggling.
Yeah.
It's been harder to purchase a property due to rising cost of housing, bidding wars in certain markets and everything, and qualifying for a mortgage with a Canadian institution always seems to have its pros and its cons, depending on the year, depending on the economy. Sometimes, like I said earlier, the loosening of restrictions happens. Sometimes they tighten it. And it seems almost as though there's like a trend that happens, so they make it easier for people to buy when they need to stimulate the real estate markets. And then when it's overstimulated, they kind of like let it simmer down by adding restrictions and everything. So what other things could people expect as of December 15th?
So we're going to go on to Regulation 2. Oh. So this is one that's really going to tackle more of the price of properties and what's accessible for people and not. So always speaking about insured mortgages, which we mentioned before, the purchase price was capped at $1 million previously. So any purchase price over $999,999 required a 20% or more down payment. That limit's now being increased to $1.5 million.
Okay.
So again, because of the rapid rise of prices in every city in Canada, if you did want a property, and again, we're talking about either a single family home or a penthouse condo, or, again, you speak about the advantages all the time of, purchasing a Plex.
Yeah.
Right. And you live in one unit and rent out the other ones. Those are also, in that price range, especially if it's in a nice area. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you are looking to house hack or whatever it may be, but if you're looking to purchase a property in that upper echelon of price range, you can now do so with a lesser down payment than 20%. So again, the hardest part, in my opinion, what I always tell clients of purchasing a property is saving for a down payment, because that takes the most time.
Yeah, it does.
So again, it's not easy to find a job always, but you can always go around, and if you apply and have a few interviews, you'll get a job, right? And as long as you have it for your probation period, let's say, once that's over, a bank's gonna, is gonna consider your income. Again, your credit's very important, but as long as you're making payments on time and you're responsible, that's not, a massive issue either. Something you have to watch out for, obviously. But the biggest thing, saving for a down payment. And, if you're looking for a property in the, million range, now given whether that's your first home or not, that's okay.
Yeah.
But you would have had to save previously, over $200,000. Now that's being reduced. Now, given you still need the income to qualify for a mortgage amount of that amount, which is substantial. But if you're looking for, ideally to house hack, for example, and you want to get a property in that, million, $1.1 million, $1.2 million range, this new regulation is going to enable you to do so with a lesser down payment. Okay. And again, getting to that mortgage amount that you're talking about, with the rental income that comes in from the house hacking, plays a big role as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope that this really helps entice, especially first-time home buyers to get out there, and continue pursuing the dreams. Because I think that when restrictions are tighter, and it's harder to qualify and there's less incentives for first-time home buyers, people almost give up on the dream of buying a property.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. And you see that in, for example, age categories.
Sure.
It's getting later and later for them to purchase their property.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it used to be average person was 25 to 30 years old purchasing their first property. Now it's like, it's 10 years later.
No.
The average person is 10 years older.
Absolutely.
Between 35 and 40, and I think every person has a dream of purchasing a property, especially those who want to start families and get married and have kids. And this might help encourage them.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's normal that sometimes, you read the news or you hear things or you see things and you get a bit demoralized.
Yeah.
But I think that's, a big part of these regulations as well, is that, like you said, they want to stimulate. There's been a tightening, let's say, over the last couple of years with the interest rates and, let's say even during COVID, a lot less demand for properties, not many properties listed on the market, right? So this is a way to really get people back into the market, stimulate it a little bit more. And again, just give more access and more options to people who are looking to buy and looking to make a move. And, this way, it's either, with lower payments, you can qualify for more in amount. It just helps you get into the market or get as close as, maybe previously you couldn't get into a certain bracket or price range or whatever it is. This helps get you there.
Yeah, and I find it interesting. So I remember way back, maybe about 8 years ago, when they were trying to stimulate the new development sales, they were offering first-time buyer programs, which were purchasing a new development condo with $1,000 down. And even at the time, if, for example, the average price of the condo was $200,000 in 2015, that 5% down would be $10,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's say, and it's a lot easier for people to save $1,000 than it is $10,000.
Yeah,
so they were, obviously there were some asterisks on that program, right? The developer would front you the balance of the money, and then you would have to pay them back when you sell it, whatever. But it was boosting the new development sales, and now it seems like at one point the new development sales were skyrocketed. Everyone was purchasing new development, but then it stopped.
Yeah.
And I think that they added a new incentive for when you purchase new development.
What a great segue, Giancarlo. Yeah, it shows you're a pro. It shows you that.
Yeah, I thought about that. I can't lie. So I thought about leading into it like that. So the floor is now open to you, my friend.
Absolutely. So the third, regulation change as of December 15th is that anybody who's purchasing a new construction property under an insured mortgage, so again, less than 20% of a down payment, whether you're a first-time home buyer or not, can amortize their loan over 30 years. Okay. So again, it's the same benefits that we mentioned previously. Amortizing your loan over 30 years, you're going to have lower payments at the jump, helps your budget. And again, it's going to allow you to get to a mortgage amount that's maybe a little bit higher than on a 25-year amortization. So you can go out there and purchase a property. It's a bit more expensive. And again, is in the development you want or the area you want. The problem we've seen for the last couple of years, and you mentioned it, is really builders are struggling.
Yeah.
Right. Builders struggled during COVID with the cost of materials. Yeah. With restrictions in building, or in terms of also, having staff and working on sites with certain safety regulations or COVID regulations, whatever you want to call it. But the reality is that, the population in Canada grew 20% in the last 5 years, and there's a housing shortage. There aren't enough homes for everybody who wants a home. Yeah. So this is a way to entice builders to start building again. Now, given with builders, I don't want to speak for builders. I'm not one myself, right? But there is sometimes a lot of red tape and a lot of guidelines to follow.
Yeah.
But this is a way that, is going to interest people in purchasing new constructions and increasing the demand for new constructions, right? Because let's say you do live somewhere, and, if you're a first-time home buyer, or you live in a home and, want to upsize or downsize, whatever it may be, and you have the option to, purchase something brand spanking new and amortize your loan over longer and pay lower, payments, lower interest at the beginning. That's something that's very enticing. So I think a lot of buyers are going to look for these new development projects. And again, the project that's good for them, whether it's a condo, whether, they're bungalows, they're semi-detached, row housing, whatever it may be. And I think from there's going to be a lot more demand for it. And when there's demand, people supply it. So builders are going to go ahead and start building more and more. And closer, we're going to get to a level where, we have more housing to reach the demand.
Yeah. And I think this is exactly what they thought of when they offered this program. And they thought about, this program is that to help also new developers.
Absolutely.
For new development sales, because they did take a little bit of a beating in the last couple of years. Toronto especially, I go to Toronto about 4 or 5 times a year, and that's all you see in Toronto is half-built skyscrapers, cranes still in the sky, windows halfway up a 50-story building, and not a worker in sight, right? So I think that they thought about helping or stimulating new development sales. I myself purchased a new development in 2020. Probably 2020. Yeah. Right. 2020, November, I purchased a new development, and I was, one of the people who saw a price increase due to material inflation during COVID. But even when I purchased there, because there's something that for example, City of Montreal offers is a 5% cash back with new developments. So, that's been an existing incentive. You can say you have 2 years after you sign for the property to claim your 5% cash back from the municipality. But, if you combine something like that with the new 30-year amortization,
absolutely,
it makes it very interesting.
Yeah, and again, you see builders sometimes offer, a cash back on your interest rate or interest rate, locked for a certain year or a certain amount of time, whatever it may be. So builders, again, are creative because, again, they do have very cool projects, very interesting product.
Yeah.
Very high quality projects as well, and they want to sell those to you.
Yeah, and there's always something going on when it comes to like new developments. Like I'm looking viciously across all markets in Canada and everything. That's all I'm doing every day is just looking for investment opportunities. And there's certain municipalities, for example, I came across one the other day, municipality in Ontario, that's selling, discounted lots directly from the municipality, trying to get people trying to incentivize people to purchase land in their municipality and build, because, for example, this is the town of Cochrane in Ontario, and it's a mining town, essentially. Very low population. I think there was 5,000 people when I looked at it. But there's land there.
Yeah.
There's land that could be developed. And despite being 4 to 5 hours north of Toronto, there's land that could be developed.
Absolutely.
What does that mean? We could add housing there. So the municipality took it upon itself to sell lots as low as $5,000 for a, 5,000, 6,000 square foot lot.
Yeah, I didn't know that. It's very interesting. And actually, it's a good idea. It's creative.
Very creative.
And again, everyone's trying to tackle the same problems that, in Canada, in
housing.
December 2024, when this airs, I guess, is housing.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people in Canada. We had a rapid population growth, and the housing hasn't been able to keep up with that. And that's what's causing higher prices. That's what's causing, not only higher, property listings, but higher rent prices, which again is good if you're an owner of a plex, or if you're house hacking, whatever it may be. But the reality is that we need housing. So these new regulations tackle, some of the main problems, which one is affordability.
Yeah.
So lower mortgage payments, access to a potentially higher mortgage amount where you can go ahead and get your ideal property and be more competitive in the market, and entice builders to build more. So I think all those things are really, very, very positive. Great self-awareness from the government to realize the problems, try to tackle them. And we're going to see how it plays out. I'm very optimistic. And hopefully, a lot of buyers are going to be happy. And we get the situation under control.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because, as a first-time home buyer, on top of these new programs, there's other things that you could leverage as well, right? Gifts for your down payment.
Absolutely.
You could do cashback promos. Certain banks offer cashback.
Yep.
And everything. And so there's so many things that you could combine a bunch of different strategies to make your goal happen.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the most discouraging things that I've witnessed lately is the amount of people that have almost given up on their dream of buying a home.
Yeah.
Because it is the American dream, quote unquote, Canadian dream, right? Buy a home, start a family. Everyone has that vision in their head for themselves.
Absolutely.
And it just seems though with the rising cost of inflation, interest rates, groceries, gas, but the salaries do not rise anywhere near as quick, unfortunately. A lot of people giving up on that dream. And in programs like what's going on now helps people, not lose touch with that dream.
Yeah.
And if you combine in multiple strategies, you could definitely make that happen.
Absolutely. So everything is very, very possible. And again, there are opportunities now.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more opportunities coming up with these new regulations.
Yeah.
So it's really about, it's easy to get down on yourself. And again, like I mentioned earlier, when you hear the news or when you go on Centris or whatever it may be, and you see prices and you hear things, this and that. But again, what's very important is to be honest with yourself, take a good hard look at your situation, speak to the proper professionals, and really analyze where you're at, where you want to be, and the steps to get you there.
Yeah, definitely. So, is there anything in closing that you would want to say to, person listening who's planning on buying a property, who's planning on purchasing their first home, with all this new information and all these new regulations coming out, is there anything that you'd like to offer?
Well, what I'd love to say is just, again, be curious, ask questions, be informed. And if you're, lazy, don't want to do all the late night reading, speak to one of us. Yeah. We'll inform you. We'll take you under our wing.
We'll do the late night reading for you.
Exactly. And again, these new regulations are really, really positive in my opinion. They're going to help so many people. It's going to really stimulate the market. Again, not only in terms of, being able to purchase higher priced properties, but it's going to entice builders to start building more and more also. And a lot of, very cool projects are going to be coming out probably in the next couple of years, really due to these regulations. So I'm really looking forward to see how it goes. And for anything, always reach out, give us a call. We're always here to help. And again, everything's possible. You just have to put your mind to it and get in contact with the right people.
Exactly. So with that being said, guys, we'd like to thank you for listening in to another episode of the Property Venture podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, or subscribe wherever you're listening. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and I think even TikTok. I don't know, our marketing guy handles all of that, and he's doing a great job at it.
Fantastic.
So Adriano, thanks for coming in again. I think it was a great episode. It helped inform a lot of potential first-time home buyers out there.
Yep.
And guys, so we look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Love you guys.
Take care.